Something was moving in my closet, and it was not a raccoon. I froze halfway across my dark bedroom, phone flashlight shaking in my hand, heart slamming against my ribs. The door rattled again. A low, panicked breathing sound came from behind it, like someone trying to stay quiet and failing. I should have run. I should have called for help. Instead, I stepped forward and pulled the door open. A girl was crushed into the corner of my closet, wrapped in my old hoodie, knees pulled to her chest. Her skin held a faint silver sheen under the flashlight, and her eyes were too large, too bright, catching the light like an animal caught in headlights. A thin cut ran along her cheekbone, half-healed in a strange, glowing way that no human wound ever healed. She was not human, and she was terrified. "Please," she whispered, the word coming out broken and strange, like she had learned English from static and old broadcasts. "Please, no tell." My hand hovered near my phone. Every instinct screamed at me to call someone, anyone, the police, a hospital, the news. But she flinched back from me, like she expected to be hit, and something in that flinch stopped me cold. I had seen fear before. I had never seen fear like that. I lowered the phone. "Okay," I said, my voice shaking almost as much as hers. "Okay, I'm not calling anyone. Just stay calm." Her name, she told me later in broken pieces over 3 days, was Vess. She did not tell me everything at first. She could not. Her translator device, a small metal disc she wore behind her ear, had cracked during her landing, and it only worked in short bursts, spitting out fragments of meaning between long stretches of silence. I kept her hidden. I told my roommate Ellie that I had a bad stomach flu and needed the room to myself. I smuggled food up the back stairs, crackers, soup, anything that seemed safe. Vess ate like she had not eaten in weeks. She flinched at every sound from the hallway. She slept sitting upright against the wall, like lying down made her too easy a target. On the second night, her translator sparked to life long enough for her to say one clear sentence. "They will find me." "Who will?" I asked. She looked at the window, at the dark sky beyond it, and did not answer. By the third day, the news had started reporting strange lights over the coast, meteor showers, the anchors called them, unusual atmospheric activity, nothing to worry about. But I had seen Vess's face when the television mentioned it. She had gone completely still, the way prey goes still when a predator passes close by. That night, her translator worked long enough for the full story to come out, halting and broken, but clear enough to break my heart. She was not just some lost traveler. She was the daughter of the Thren Ascendancy's ruling house, a civilization spread across more star systems than I could imagine, an empire so old and so rigid that its royal children were not raised as people, they were raised as instruments. Vess had been told her entire life who she would marry, what treaties her body would secure, which borders her name would guarantee. She had never once been asked what she wanted. Days before she fled, she had learned the truth behind a planned trip to a quiet, unimportant world called Earth. It was not an educational voyage, as she had been told. It was the first step of a marriage alliance, arranged to end a border dispute with a neighboring system. She would be married off the moment the ceremony ships arrived, to a stranger she had never met, for a peace treaty she had no say in. So she ran. She stole a small scout pod meant for surface reconnaissance, and she crashed it in the woods behind my neighborhood, and she crawled through backyards and fences until she found an unlocked window that happened to be mine. "I not want crown," she told me, her hands trembling around a mug of tea I had made her. "I want choose. Just once. Choose." I did not know what to say to that. I was 22 years old, working a part-time job and barely managing my own life, and somehow I had become the last line of defense for a runaway alien princess. "Your mom is looking for you," I said quietly. "The lights in the sky. That's her, isn't it?" Vess nodded, and for the first time, I saw something other than fear in her eyes. Grief. "She not bad," Vess said. "She trapped too, same as me, but she forgot how trapped feel." The search intensified over the following days. More lights, more official statements calling them weather anomalies, more government vehicles parked at the edge of the woods where her pod had gone down. I started noticing unfamiliar cars on my street, moving too slowly, pausing too long outside houses. Someone, or something, was scanning the neighborhood, house by house. On the 6th night, they found us. I woke to a light so bright it burned through my curtains, turning the whole room white. Vess was already awake, standing rigid by the window, her whole body trembling. "She here," Vess whispered. "My mother." I threw on a jacket and ran outside before I had time to think about what I was doing. The street was filled with light, a massive shape hovering silently above the rooftops, too large and too quiet to belong to anything built on Earth. Neighbors stood in their doorways, frozen, phones raised, filming something none of them could explain. A section of the light folded open, and a figure descended, tall, regal, draped in fabric that shimmered like liquid metal, her presence alone pressing the air flat with authority. Government agents who had arrived earlier that night stood frozen, weapons lowered, clearly understanding they were completely outmatched. The Queen Mother of the Thren Ascendancy had come for her daughter personally. Her eyes found me instantly, standing on my porch steps with Vess just behind me, half hidden in the shadow of the doorway. "You harbored her," the Queen said, and her voice carried without effort, filling the entire street. "You knew what she was, and you hid her." My legs wanted to run. Every part of my body screamed to step aside and let this happen without me. But Vess's hand had found mine somewhere in the chaos, gripping it tight, and I felt her shaking, and I thought about that first night, the way she flinched when I raised my hand, the way she had learned to expect nothing but cruelty. "Yes," I said, and my voice cracked but held. "I did." "You understand the laws you have broken," the Queen said, stepping closer, the ground seeming to hum beneath her presence. "Interference with a royal succession is not a small matter, human." "I don't care about your laws," I said, and I felt Vess's grip tighten in surprise. "I care that she was terrified. I care that she showed up bleeding and shaking, and begging me not to call anyone, because in her whole life, nobody ever asked her what she wanted. That's not a law problem. That's a cruelty problem." For a long moment, nobody spoke. Agents behind me shifted uneasily, clearly certain I had just doomed the entire street. But the Queen did not move to strike me down. She simply stared, something flickering behind her composed expression, something that looked, for just a second, like she had never once been spoken to that way in her entire life. "You dare lecture me on cruelty," she said, quieter now. "I'm not lecturing you," I said. "I'm asking you a question. When was the last time anyone asked your daughter what she wanted, instead of what she was for?" The silence stretched long enough that I thought I had made a fatal mistake. Vess stepped out from behind me then, standing on her own for the first time since I had found her, chin raised despite the tremor still in her hands. "Mother," she said, her voice steadier than I had ever heard it. "I not run because I hate you. I run because nobody asked me, ever, just once. I want choose." The Queen's composed mask cracked, just slightly, just enough for me to see the exhaustion underneath it, the weight of a crown she had carried for longer than I could imagine. "Do you understand what you risked?" the Queen said softly, "running to a world we had not even catalogued, hiding with strangers, trusting your life to someone who could have handed you over the moment you appeared." "He not hand me over," Vess said. "He choose to help." "Nobody ever choose that for me before. Only for Empire. He choose for me." The Queen looked at me again, and this time there was no threat in her gaze, only something quieter, something almost like recognition. "You are a very small creature to stand so firmly against an empire," she said. "I'm not standing against an empire," I answered. "I'm standing next to a scared kid. That's all this ever was to me." The Queen studied Vess for a long time, longer than felt comfortable, and then she reached out and touched her daughter's face, gently, the way I imagined a mother might, underneath all the armor of rulership. "The marriage pact will be reconsidered," she said finally. "Not cancelled, reconsidered, and you will return with me, to face what you must face." "And after," Vess said. "I choose after, not you, me." The Queen was quiet for a long moment, and then, so softly I almost missed it, she nodded. Before she left, Vess turned to me one last time, her translator crackling with the strain of holding steady this long. "Thank you," she said. For not calling anyone. Come back sometime, I said, my throat tight. On your own terms. She smiled, the first real smile I had seen from her, and then the light rose from the street, and the ship folded back into the sky, and the night went dark and quiet again, as if none of it had happened at all. The government agents took their statements and asked me not to talk about it, which felt almost funny considering half the street had it on video. Life went back to something like normal within a week. Classes resumed. Rent was still due. Ellie asked if I was finally over my stomach flu, and I told her yes, feeling like the world's worst liar. But sometimes, late at night, I still glance at my closet door before I fall asleep, half expecting to hear that same nervous breathing again, half hoping I do. Because somewhere out among the stars, a princess finally got to choose something for herself, and for one strange week, my messy little room was the safest place in the galaxy.